Daily life. The cat has a ripped ear. He fights. He fights all the tomcats all the time. There are blood gouts on a velvet seat, easily sponged off. But these red drops on a book of stifters will, I remember and say at some future time, oh yes, that was the day Hodge had a torn ear and bled on the card table. Poor Hodge, battered like an old car. Silence flows into my mind. It is spring. It is also still really winter. Not a day when you say, what a beautiful spring day. A day like twilight or evening when you think, I meant to watch the sunset, and then comes on to rain. You've got to take, says the man at the store, the rough with the smooth. A window to the south is rough with raindrops that, caught in the screen, spell out untranslatable glyphs. A story not told, so much not understood, a sight, an insight, and you pass on. Another day for each day is subjective, and there is a totality of days, as there are as many to live it. The day lives us, and in exchange we it. After snowball time, a month, March of fits, and starts winds, rain, spring hints, and a wintry arrears. The weather pays its check. Like quarreling in a D.C. hotel, I won't quarrel about it, but I made no local calls. Strange city, broad and desolating, monuments rearing up and offices like monuments, and crowds lined up to see the White House inside. We went to see the White House. It was lovely. Not so strange, though, as the cemetery with guttering flame and admirals and generals with bigger gravestones than the lesser fry. Below Lee's house, false marble pillars, and inside also every day. In every room a shawl, tossed untidily upon a chair or bed, created no illusion of lived-inness, but the periwinkles do, in beds that flatten and are starred blue-violet, a retiring flower loved, it would seem, of the dead, so often found where they congregate. A quote from Aeschylus, I forget. All is forgotten gradually, and one wonders if these ideas that seem handed down are truly what they were. An idea may mutate like a plant. What was once held basic truth becomes an idle thought like, shall we plant some periwinkles there by that bush? They're so to be depended on. The wind shakes the screen, and all the raindrops on it streak and run in stems. It's colder. The crocuses close up. The snowdrops are brushed with mud. The sky colors itself rosily behind gray-black, and the rain falls through the basketball hoop on a garage, streaking its blackboard with further trails of rust. A lovely color to set with periwinkle violet blue, and the trees shiver and shudder in the light rain blasts from off the ocean. The street, wet, reflects the breakup of the clouds on its face, driving over sky with a hissing sound. The car slides slightly, and in the west appear streaks of different green. A lid lifted briefly on the spring. Then the moon burns through, racing clouds, its aureole that of rings of oil on water in a harbor bubbling up from an exhaust. Clear the sky beside a rim of moon, 3 stars, and only 3 and 1 planet. So under lilacs unleaved like a clump of snowdrops and 1 purple crocus. Purple, a polka-dotted color little girls are fond of. See my new dress, and she twirls on 1 foot, then crossed bursts into tears. Smiles and rain, like these passing days in which buds swell, unseen as yet, waiting for the elms to color their further outmost twigs. Only the willow gleams yellow. Life is hard. Some are strong, some are weak, most untested. These useless truths blow about the yard, the day after rain, the soft sunlight making softer shadows on the faded lawn. The world looks so old in the spring, laid out under the sky. 1 gull coasts by, unexpected as a kiss on the nape of the neck. These days need birds, and so they come. A flock of ducks, and a bunch of small, fluffy, unnamed balls that hide in hedges and make a racket. The gift of life, as though existing in expectancy, and then someone came up and said, "Here," or "Happy birthday." It is more mysterious than that. Pierced by blue, or running in the rain, or simply lying down to read. Writing a postponed letter, which may bring no pleasure, arduous truths to tell. And if you thought March was bad, consider April, early April. Wet snow falling into blue squills that underneath a beach lake make an illusory lake, a haze of blue with no depth to it. That is like pain. Ordinary household pain, like piles or bumping against a hernia. All the signs are set for A-OK. A day to visit the National Gallery, Velasquez, Degas. But, and with a but, with water on the knee, you'll need a wheelchair, Mummy. Coasting among the masterpieces. Of what use are they? Angel with a hurdy-gurdy, or this young man in dun clothes who holds his hat so that the red lining shows and glows. And in the sitting room, people sit and rest their feet and talk of where they've been. Motels and Monticello. Dinner in the Fiji room. Someone forgets a camera. Each day forgetting. What is there so striking to remember? The rain stops. April shines a little, stormily. The ocean off there makes its freight car noise, or rattles with a guitar and asks to have its nose wiped. Gray descends. In a luminous penetration of unbright light that seeps and coats the ragged lawn and spells out bare spots in winter, fallen branches, yard work. And now, the yard work is over. It is never over. Today's stint, anyway. Odd jobs that stretch ahead, wide and mindless, as Pennsylvania Avenue or the bridge to Arlington, crossed and recrossed. And there the Lincoln Memorial crumbles. It looks so solid, it won't last. The impermanence of permanence, is that all there is? To look and see the plane tree, its crooked branches brush the ground, rear in its age, older than any of us, destined, if all goes well with it, to outlast us all. Does one then resent the plane tree, host to cardinals? I hear them call, plaintively in the mating season. Why should a white city dog my thoughts? Vast, arid, a home to many, so strange in its unamiability, stony city laid out on a heroic plan. Why are you there? Various answers present themselves, likely as squills. Doesn't really matter, for instance, to miss the spring, for this is spring, this mud and swelling fruit tree buds furred on the apple trees. And yet it still might snow. It's been known, falling like cherry blossom petals around the reflecting pool, a sight to see. And there are sights to hear, music from a phonograph, pop or classical. Please choose one or both. It doesn't matter. What matters is how the light becomes entrapped in a dusty screen, masking out the view into the depths of the garage where cars are stalled like oxen. Day, suddenly sunny and warming up for more. I would like to stroke you as one strokes a cat and feels the ridgy skull beneath the fur and tickles it behind the ears. The cat twists its head and moves it toward your fingers like the lifting thighs of someone fucked, moving up to meet the stroke. The sun strokes all now in this zone, reaching in through windows to gel glue in jars. That takes time. May I send you a warmed bottle of Pleobond? It is on this desk, and here's the laugh. I don't know who put it there. This is something he will like or use. Meantime, those branches go ungathered up. I hate fussing with nature and would like the world to be all weeds. I see it from the train, city-bound, how the yuccas and chicory thrive. So much messing about. Why not leave the world alone? Then there would be no books, which is not to be borne. Willa Cather alone is worth the price of admission to the horrors of civilization. Let's make a list. The greatest paintings, preferred orchestral conductors, nostalgia singers, the best, the very best roses. After learning all their names, Rose de Recht, Cornelia, Pax, it is important to forget them. All these lists are like so much dirty laundry. Sort it out fast and send it to laundry or hurl it into washing machine. Add soap and let her spin. The truth is that all these household tasks and daily work, up the street, 2 men install an air conditioner, are beautiful. Flowers and machines that people love. The boy who opts for trade school while white-collar kids call him a greaser. I wish I could take an engine apart and reassemble it. I also wish I sincerely wanted to. I don't. Love is everything that it's cracked up to be. There's a song for you. Another is in the silence of a windless day. Hear it? Motors, yes, and the scrabbling of the surf. But 2, the silence in which out of the muck arise violet leaves of violets, that is. The days slide by, and we feel we must stamp an impression on them. It is quite other. They stamp us both, time and season, so that looking back there are wide, unpeopled avenues, blue-gray with cars on them, parked either side, and a small bridge that crosses Rock Creek has 4 bison at its corners, out of scale, yet so mysterious to childhood, friendly, ominous, patable because of bronze. The rain comes back. This spring, like a thirsty dog who goes back and back to his dish. Fill it up, please. Wag, wag. Gray depression and purple shadows. The daffodils feigning sunlight. That came yesterday. One day rain, one day sun. The weather is stuck like a record. Through it all, the forsythia begins to bloom. Brown and yellow and warm as lit gas jets, clinging like bees to the arching canes where starlings take cover from foraging cats. Not to know. What have these years of living and being lived taught us? Not to quarrel? Scarcely. You want to shoot pool. I want to go home. And just before the snap of temper, one had sensed so strongly the pleasure of watching a game well played, the cue ball caroom and the struck ball pocketed, skill, and still the untutored rain comes down. Open the laundry door, press your face into the wet, chill April, a life mask. Attune yourself to what is happening. Now, the little wet things, like washing up the lunch dishes. Bubbles, rise, rinse, and it's done. Let the dishes air dry, the way you let your hair after a shampoo. All evaporates, water, time, the happy moments, and, harder to believe, the unhappy. Time on a bus that passes, and the night with its burden and gift of dreams. That other life we live and need, filled with joys and terrors. Threaded by that other life we live and need, filled with joys and terrors. Threaded by dailiness, where the wished-for sometimes happens, or just before waking, tremulous hands undo buttons. Another day, the sun comes out from behind unbuttoned cloud underclothes, gray, with use, and Bud scales lit up the sidewalk. A new shop is being built, an old one refurbished. What was a white interior will now be brown. Behind men's clothes, there are these changes in taste. Fashion knit anew, change in everything, yet none so great as the changes in oneself, which, short of sickness, go unobserved. Why watch yourself? You know you are here, and where tomorrow you probably will be. In the delicatessen, a woman made a fumbling gesture, then slowly folded toward the floor. Get a doctor, someone said. She's having a fit. Not knowing how to help, I left, taking with me the look of appeal in faded blue eyes. Between these sharp attacks, the look of harsh reality, I would like to interpose. Between these sharp attacks of harsh reality, I would like to interpose. Interpose is not the word. One wants them not to happen, that's all. But like slammed on brakes, the cab skids, you are thrown forward. Ouch, they come. Times when religion would help. Be merciful, intercede, that which I should have done. Fear and superstition and something more. But without the conviction of a truth, best leave it alone. Life, it seems, explains nothing about itself. In the garden now, daffodils stand full unfolded, and to see them is enough. They seem no more passing than when they weren't there. Perhaps the promise when the first blades pierced the wintry soil was better. You see, you invent choices where none exist. Perhaps it is not a choice, but a preference. No, take it all. It's free. Help yourself. The sap rises. The trees leaf out and bloom. You suddenly sense you don't know what, an exhilaration that revives old views and surges of energy or the pure pleasure of simply looking. A car goes over a rise, and there are birches, snow-twisted into cabalistic shapes. The Devil's Notch or Smuggler's Gap. At the time, you could not have imagined the time when you would forget the name, as apparent and there as your own. Rivers reflecting silver skies. How many boys have swum in you? A rope tied to a tree caught between my thighs, I was yanked headfirst and fell into the muddy creek. What a long time it seemed, rising to the surface. How lucky it didn't catch me in the groin. That won't happen twice, I imagine. That summer sun was the same as this April one. Is repetition boring, or only inactivity? Quite a few things are boring, like the broad avenues of Washington, D.C., that seem to go from nowhere and back again. Civil servants wait at the crossing to cross to lunch at the Waffle House. In this twilight at Degas, a woman sits and holds a fan. It is the just rightness that counts, and how you have come to know just rightness when you see it, and what is the deep stirring that it brings. Art is as mysterious as nature, as life, of which it is a flower. Under the hedges now, the weedy strips grow bright with dandelions, just as good a flower as any other. Unfortunately, you can't pick them, they wilt. But these burgeoning days are not like any others. Promise is a part of it, promise of warmth and vegetative growth. Wheel me out into the sun, sunny. These old bones that creak need it. And the gardener does not come back. Over the winter, he had a heart attack, has to take it easy. You see death shadowed out in another's life. The threat is always there, even in balmy April sunshine. So what if it is hard to believe in? Stopping in the city while the light is red, to think that all who stop with you too must stop. And yet it is not less individual a fate for all that. When I was born, death kissed me. I kissed it back. Meantime, there is a bridge. There is bridge, and solitaire, and phone calls, and a door slams. Someone goes out into the April sun to take a spin as far as the grocer's, to shop, and then come back. In the fullness of time, let me hand you an empty cup, coffee-stained, or a small glass of spirits. Here's your ounce of whiskey for today. Next door, the boys dribble a basketball and practice shots. 2 boys run by, high spirits. The postman comes. No mail of interest. Another day, there is. No mail of interest. Another day, there is another day. The postman comes. No mail of interest. Another day, there is. A postcard of the Washington Monument. A friend waving from a small window at the Needle Top. Ho, ho, he calls. Another day, and still the sun shines down, warming tulips into bloom, a redder red than blood. The dandelions cringe before them. In the evening there will be time enough to drive from here to there, study the vegetable patch, admire the rosy violets. Life in action, life in repose, life in contemplation, which is hard to tell from daydreaming on a day when the sky wool gathers clouds and sets their semblance on a glassy ocean. Only its edge goes lisp. Oh, no 2 days the same. Is it the ocean's mindlessness that troubles? At times it seems calculatedly malevolent, tearing the dunes asunder, tumbling summer houses into itself, a terror to see. They say there are those who have never felt terror, a slight creeping of the scalp merely. How fine, finer than sand, that on a day like this trickles through my fingers. Ensconced in a dune cleft, sun warmed and breeze cooled. This piece is full of sounds and movement. A couple passes, jogging. A dog passes, barking and running. My nose runs a little, just a drip, left over from winter. No 2 days the same. Is it the ocean's mindlessness that troubles? At times it seems calculatedly malevolent, tearing the dunes asunder, tumbling summer houses into itself, a terror to see. They say there are those who have never felt terror, a slight creeping of the scalp merely. How fine, finer than sand, that on a day like this trickles through my fingers, ensconced in a dune cleft, sun warmed and breeze cooled. This piece is full of sounds and movement. A couple passes, jogging. A dog passes, barking and running. My nose runs a little, just a drip, left over from winter. How long ago it seems. All spring and summer stretch ahead, a roadway lined by roses and thunder. It will be here before you know it. These twigs will then have leafed and showered down a harvest of yellow-brown. So far away, so near at hand. The sun runs through my fingers. The yellow daffodils have white corollas, sepals. The crocuses are gone. I didn't see them go. They were here, now they're not. Instead, the forsythia ensnarls its flames, cool fire pendant above the smoke of its brown branches. Beaches are near. It rains again. The screen and window glass are pebbled by it. It soaks through a raincoat that has had its water repellency dry cleaned out of it. Most modern inventions don't work so well, or not for long. A breakdown occurs, or something simple like the dishwasher detergent eating off the pattern on china, even the etched florets on wine glasses. Strong stuff. From the train, a stand of larch is greener than greenest grass. A funny tree of many moods. Gold in autumn, naked in winter. An evergreen, it looks, that isn't. What kind of tree is that? I love to see it resurrect itself, the enfolded buttons of needles studding the branches, then opening into little bursts. And that Washington flower, the pink magnolia tree, blooms now in little yards, its trunk a smoky gray. And as soon the hybrid azaleas, so much, too much will follow, and a tender lilac. Persia, We have much to thank you for, besides the word lapis lazuli, and someone you know well is suffering, sees all but not the way before him, hating his job and not knowing what to change it for. Have you any advice to give? Have you learned nothing in all these years? Take it as it comes. Sit still and listen, each so alone. Someone driving decides not to take that curve, to pile it up in smithereens, the anxious and unsatisfying years. Goodbye, life. Others keep on living so as not to wound their friends. The suicide fantasy to awaken rested and fresh, to plunge into a deep and dreamless sleep, to be mindless and at one with all that grows, dies, and revives each April. Here crying, "Stir your stumps." In the mental hospital, a patient is ready to be discharged. I'm so glad to be going home, where the same old problems wait. Still, to feel more equal to them, that's something. Time heals all wounds. Now what's that supposed to mean? Wounds can kill, like that horse chestnut tree with the rotting place will surely die, unless a tree doctor comes. Cut out the rot, fill the tree with cement, score and leave to heal. The rain comes down in buckets. I've seen that, though you often speak of it. The rain comes down and brings depression too much and too often, and there is the fog off the cold Atlantic. No one is at his best with a sinus headache. It will pass. Stopped passages unblock. Why, let the lovely spring, its muck and scarlet emperors, get you down. Unhibernate. Let the rain soak your hair, run down your face, hang in drops from facial protuberances. Face into it, then towel dry. Then another day brings back the sun and violets in the grass. The pear tree thickens all its boughs and twigs into silver white, a dimmed brilliance, and already at its base another day brings back the sun and violets in the grass. The pear tree thickens all its boughs and twigs into silver white, a dimmed brilliance, and already at its base a circle of petals on the unmowed grass. Far away in Washington, at the reflecting pool, the Japanese cherries burst out into their dog-mouth pink. Visitors gasp. The sun drips, coats and smears, all that spring yellow under unending blue. Only the oaks hold back their leaf buds, reticent. Reticence is not a bad quality, though it may lead to misunderstandings. I misunderstood silence for disapproval. I see now it was sympathy. Thank you, May, for these warm stirrings. Life goes on, it seems, though in all sorts of places, nursing homes, it is drawing to a close. Abstractions and generalities, grass and blue depths into which the evening star seems set, as windows are set in walls in whited Washington. City, be gone from my thoughts. Childhood was not all that gay, nor all that gray, for that the matter of it. May leans in my window, offering hornets. To them, too, I give leave to go about their business, which is not nesting in my books, The fresh mown lawn is a rug underneath which is swept the dirt, the living dirt, out of which our nurture comes, to which we go, not knowing if we hasten or tarry. May opens wide her bluest eyes and speaks in bird tongues and a chainsaw. The blighted elms come down. Already maple saplings, where elms once grew and whelmed, count as young trees. In a dishpan, the soap powder dissolves under a turned-on faucet and makes foam, like the waves that crash ashore at the foot of the street. A restless surface, chewing and spitting sand in small white pebbles, clam shells with a sheen or chalky white, a horseshoe crab, primeval, and all this without a thought, this churning energy. The sun sucks up the dew, the day is clear, a bird shits on my window ledge, rain will wash it off, or a storm will chip it loose. Life, I do not understand. Days tick by, each so unique, each so alike. What is that chatter in the grass? May is not a flowering month so much as shades of green, yellow-green, blue-green, or emerald, or dusted like the lilac leaves. The lilac trusses stand in bud. A cardinal passes like a flying tulip, alights and nails the green day down. One flame in a fire of sea-soaked, copper-fed wood, a red that leaps from green and holds it there. Reluctantly, the plane tree, always late as though from age, opens up and hangs its seed balls out. The apples flower. The pear is past. Winter is suddenly so far away. Behind, ahead, from the train, a stand of coarse grass in fuzzy flower. Is it for miracles we live? I love it when the morning sun lights up my room like a yellow jelly bean in inner glow. May mutters, why? Ask questions. Or, what are the questions you wish to ask?